We know lots of brands are thinking about future-proofing their digital strategy. And in this episode of T.E.A Talks, Con and I are going to share 5 of the best ways we can think of to guarantee your digital success long into the future. Let's get into it. So Con, here we are. We're back for another T.E.A Talks. How are you doing, my friend? You well?
I'm good, thank you. Yes, not bad.
You've got glasses. You didn't have glasses the last T.E.A Talk.
When you reach a certain age, then all of a sudden things start getting murky. So that's when you need glasses.
They're looking good. It suits
Thank you.
It is good. We've got shirts. We've got glasses.
Yes, I mean that's
looking the part.
Very mature.
You're welcome. Right. So we've got a great episode today.
Yes, very good.
We're going to talk about future-proofing your digital strategy, specifically in the context of a home garden lifestyle brand. So if you're one of those brands, this is definitely the episode for you. But future-proofing seems to be a topic that we're talking about more and more with our brands. Everyone's thinking, yes, about sales today, but also, is this going to work for me a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now? And I think from an economic standpoint, I think that's a really good thing. It shows brands are just starting now to come out of the craziness of recent months and years and actually starting to think about, right, what does the next few years look like for our brand, which is great. We're having more and more of these conversations.
We do, yes.
And we thought this would make a really good T.E.A Talk in terms of what are some of the things we are repeatedly recommending and talking about and saying to some of our brands. So we've written down 5 of our best.
We have,
5
yes.
things that we think if you really focus on these 5 things, you're off to the races.
Absolutely, yes.
Do you want to kick us off? What's the first one?
The obvious one, seasonality.
Yeah, which is huge.
It's huge.
For when again, as you say, home garden lifestyle brands. That's our world. Seasonality, huge for every single one of them. Whether it's the summer, the winter, whatever. So, what should some of the brands be thinking about when it's seasonality? Because I would imagine most brands watching this will go, "We know seasonality. We know summer's peak for us. We know it's Christmas is everything for our brand." So you probably do know that, but you're probably still making some mistakes and not thinking about things. So what are some of the things that we're thinking about and advising our clients to think about?
So I think first and foremost is how much time are you actually giving yourself to prepare for that hot season? Yeah. Because obviously, you really need to look at all your data to understand how well you can actually perform during that season.
Yeah.
And we are seeing a lot of brands out there that essentially they will start the prep for their hottest season, literally 2 or 3 months in advance. But in fact, when you really should start is just when you come out of that season, you start thinking about, okay, how am I going to fuel the next season? So, you just go very heavy on your data, start to understand what worked, what hasn't worked, and take it from there. And I think this is one of those little sort of not necessarily remembered things, because obviously with business as usual.
Well, you're busy. You're always on to the next thing, aren't you?
Exactly that.
Yeah.
And they do not give themselves enough time just to step back and have a little think. Yeah. So I think that's where I would start, because just looking at how you performed in the last in that season, you will be able to know, okay, which campaign types are going to be performing best for next time around. What kind of creatives shall we use? What kind of content shall we be pushing out? Maybe there is another product which actually we think would have performed better if we started promoting it sooner. So there's just so many different things that it's just
giving yourself time, isn't it? It's giving yourself time and giving more time than so many brands are chasing their tail, really. We're seeing even established brands are still coming at promotions, their peak season. It's just all a bit late, and it's and then it becomes a rush, and often you miss the boat and you miss some key times. We're seeing that time and time again, and are then having to adjust and react really quickly sometimes to make sure we don't miss the crest of the wave, and we're off into peak season. Even though, to your point, we know if you look back historically at the data, that the summer period from May onwards, from June onwards, it's going to really pick up. So we are seeing one thing. I'm just thinking of some of the things we are seeing right now. We are seeing year-on-year differences in terms of the data. So sometimes certain seasonal products or brands, they're seeing their peak start earlier. Some are seeing it start later. So we are seeing changes, but you can learn so much by looking back. And obviously, it's now most brands are going to be using GA4 for last year. Pre that, they're going to be using GA3. So universal. So it's become a little bit more tricky and a lot of brands have moved away from GA and gone to these third parties now, which they weren't doing a few years ago. So it is more difficult for brands from a practical boots on the ground perspective to measure your year-on-year performance. Obviously, you've got your own data as well, but just looking at and truly understanding that seasonal performance. And as you say, breaking everything down, the key campaigns, the key messages, the key platforms you're using, the types of creative, really understanding that and knowing that at peak for our brand, this is what it did, and then being able to plan forward. It also enables you to think from a budgeting standpoint,
yes.
which is again something we talk about all the time with our clients is, what's the budget? And okay, we've got a budget for the year, great. But how are we grading that budget across the year?
Yes.
Oh, we're going to spend 60% of it in that 3-month window because that's when our peak is. Knowing that and actually going, well, if we took that to 70% of our budget, or actually if we increased our spend budget by an extra 20, 30K or whatever it might be, would we get a better return? If so, when's the best time for us to spend that budget?
Yes.
These are some of the things they need to be thinking about.
Exactly. And to that point as well, actually, I think it's very important to acknowledge that there is, apart from our own data and apart from our own campaigns and what we are doing, there is a wider world out there as well. So whatever we do, whether it's budgeting, whether it's the product offering or anything else, we really need to look at the wider world as well. And I think this is one of the things that a lot of brand it's a bit of a stumbling block, because a lot of brands will just try to go, for that year-on-year comparison.
Yeah.
Very often, years are not comparable whatsoever, because the circumstances around the business are going to change.
You're absolutely, and that's another thing that we have to remind ourselves to do is actually look outside of your own four walls and look at what's going on in the wider world, look at the economy, look at what your competitors are seeing, what the data is telling you, because exactly to go back to that point is the year-on-year data is often not the same, but whether it comes early or late, you're going to still see a peak, whether it's, a peak that's beyond what you've done in previous years or not. Those overall trends are not going to change. So seasonality, you really delving deeper, that rather than just this is peak, but actually really taking that to a more granular level, and then giving yourself a bigger window of time to really look and measure. I mean, you've only got to think of like it's the classic cliche, but I always think of like your John Lewis's and your others, where with their Christmas ads, right? They will already be planning the following year's Christmas ads before they've even, this one's even come out. They'll be straight away thinking about, a year in advance. And I think if SME brands can be thinking in that way of thinking, right, well, this summer, what are we doing? And what are we doing next summer?
Yes.
Or what are we doing next Christmas? That can be really powerful. And the brands that are really future-proof and thinking ahead, that's what they're doing. I want to move on now quickly to the next one, which is the second big point that we think, as well as seasonality, which is capturing customer data.
Yes, first-party data.
So important.
Gold mine.
Again, a lot of what we're covering in these 5 are fairly obvious, to us at least, but capturing that data, so important, so powerful, and the long and short of it is, capture as much data as you physically can.
Absolutely.
Just capture as much data. And there's lots of creative ways you can do it, but it's really just, you want your email address. The great way I think about it is whatever your brand is selling, however big or small your brand is, if you are and whatever channels you're using to market, whether you're running ads or you're doing this or that, the only place that you actually own is your website. That's the only thing you have control over, right? You don't have control over your SEO. You don't have control over your ads. You don't even have control over Facebook or Meta or any of these platforms, TikToks. You don't own them, so the data is not your own.
No.
So you always want to drive people to your own website, and then when they're on your website, 97 in every 100 people that come on your website, 97, 98 people are going to leave. So make a point of capturing as much data, incentivize them, have emails, sign up for this, newsletters, maybe a pop-up or two, as long as they're not too intrusive, but do whatever you can that's relevant to your business to capture that data. And then when you get that initial bit of data, then follow up to capture more data, because once they've taken that first action, they're so much more inclined to take that second action.
Yeah, because they are invested already.
Because they're invested. And I just think, that's something we're saying to all of our brands is just capture data. The more of it you can get, the more it's going to future-proof your, and it just makes all the sense. If,
it does.
You send 100 people to your website, 97, 98 of them are going to leave without doing something. Wouldn't it be great if 10, 20, 30% of those people at least gave you something for a discount or for an incentive or for some sort of offer?
Yeah.
just make it a focus.
Exactly, and that actually takes us very nicely to the next point about being inventive, or as inventive as possible.
There you go.
Because we obviously want to incentivize them somehow to give that data to us. So I think this is where your invention really should come in, and that's when you start getting creative with the with whatever you are doing, whether it's a pop-up on the website, whether it's your prospecting campaign on your social media, anything like that. Whatever you can do to get them stick and actually just be like, all right, okay, I do quite like the look of it. Can I just have a newsletter from you guys? That's where you are onto a winner. So, so I think do not be afraid to carry on pushing these boundaries and just...
You've got, I think you're absolutely right. And that's the creative, because, I mean, we've done so many T Talks where we're talking about using video, using different types of creative to really, try and make your brand stand out. We've spoken so, at great length about the, if acquisition is becoming harder, focus on retention. Retention is, get those customers to buy into the brand, buy into the story behind the brand, buy into the people behind the story behind the brand. Really just leverage that. And I think by being innovative, by trying different things, by stepping, and we've seen some amazing examples of some of the competitors of our clients where they're doing things that are just, we go, that's really clever, and there's been sometimes some of the ads I can think of where, and some of the campaigns where we've seen certain players in certain markets do things that you would never have thought they'd do it.
No,
you wouldn't have. You would have thought, oh, blimey, that's a little bit. They would, but actually they're doing it because it's a bit controversial, or they're doing it to gain attention, or they're doing it because it is different to the norm. And I think they're pushing boundaries, but it's gaining attention because, in the world of digital, and as there's so much, it's become a little bit vanilla. Everyone's sick of ads. We're sick of seeing the same stuff. There's so much noise, now in whatever context you're in, whatever brand you're in, that actually, if you do something a little bit out of the ordinary, it helps you stand out.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point, because a lot of brands will very often say, oh, normally we don't do this within our industry.
Exactly that. How many times have we heard that? Our industry doesn't do that. And it's like, well, maybe you should then. Maybe that's the reason why you should do it, because it's just a little bit different. Absolutely seen that.
It's fantastic.
The fourth one, I'm rattling through them now, but the fourth one is about building the brand into an authority, but also building your personal authority as well. And this is one that I just absolutely love this, because I've just advocated it for years, is, your website, the way I always think about it, whether you're selling a product or service, doesn't really matter, sector, right? Your website is your shop window to the world, It's and whilst, it's great to have on there, these are all of our products, and here are all of our services, and this is all about us, great. But actually, Google and then other search engines are available. But and however you're marketing your brand, you've got to provide a reason for deserving to rank, essentially a reason for being like, we're in business. Why are you in business? We're in business because we're experts at providing this service, producing this product, or whatever it is that you do.
Yes.
So it's like, if that, you need to use your website as a way of showcasing that expertise, that authority, and building yourself into the go-to person, the person that's top of mind for, I've got this problem, I need this solution, I'm looking for that product, I'm going to go to so-and-so. If you think of all the brands that you know of top of mind, it's because they are synonymous with you for some purpose, something, solving some problem. And that is really got to be the aim for the brand. And then off the back of that, the personal brand that feeds off the brand as well, or vice versa. It can work both ways.
Especially if your product addresses a very specific need.
Yeah, exactly. It's for SMEs, it's such an important point that it's just. And again, if you think about the premise that this is future-proofing that digital strategy, when it comes online, yes, be doing ads, be innovative, collect that data, but also remember that the long-term plan, the 3, 5, 10-year plan is we want to become the authority in that space. It's exactly what we're doing, for heaven's sake. We are a digital marketing paid media agency, right? But actually, we have said part of our own strategy, you get an exclusive here, but a part of our own strategy is we want to become the go-to agency for home, garden, lifestyle brands.
Exactly that.
That is our target market. And we've said, if Evergreen can be top of mind for brands in the home, garden, lifestyle space over the next few years, that'd be amazing for us. It's not going to happen overnight.
Of course not.
It's not, so in the short term, there's things we're doing right now, but a lot of it is leveraged time. It's stuff we're creating. you'll notice every T.E A Talk, every Uncut, all the stuff we're producing sits on the website, turns us into an authority. Hugely powerful, but it's part of a long-term, future-proofed digital strategy for ourselves. So we're quite literally walking the walk as well as talking the talk.
And that very beautifully actually takes us to the to making it very much sustainable. And this is the final point we want to make, isn't it?
Yeah.
The sustainability of what you are doing across your across your digital marketing strategies.
Yeah, which is this backbone of digital marketing, which is a concept we've spoken about. We've created more than a decade ago. It's a premise. Just we'll link to it in the notes, but the premise is simple enough. It's essentially, as a business, when you're thinking about your future long-term strategy, you don't want to become overly reliant on any one channel. So you want to make sure that a portion of your visibility is what you're buying in, ads and buying that in, but I don't want to become overly reliant on that. Then it's, is my brand visibility, people that are arriving directly, that are repeat buying from me, that are returning, that are buying from me again and again, they're the people I own. Then you've got the traffic that you're nurturing. So what is my social media, my email marketing, all that data I'm capturing, what am I doing? My socials, how am I being innovative to push the brand out there? And then the last one is traffic and the visibility that you're earning, again, through that authority, that you're becoming the go-to, the top of mind brand for the product, the service, the solution, the conundrum that someone might have. So they all are intrinsically linked.
Yes.
But you're absolutely right. That, thinking about that and thinking about, you're not just thinking, right, I want to grow my brand, I'm going to dump all my money into ads, or I'm going to just go heavy on email marketing only. You want to diversify. You don't want to go into a casino and put it all on black.
No,
I do that, but you know what I mean. You wouldn't want to. You want to, hedge your bets, if you like. And I think with your digital marketing, to truly future-proof it, you've got to hedge your bets by being across multiple platforms, multiple channels. That's right for your brand.
And the beauty of it is that actually you can just go up and down. You can just carry on sliding these little sliders to move the needle as much as you possibly can.
And it will change over time as your brand grows. If you're a sub-million-pound brand, you're going to probably be more weighted towards Google Ads. For brands watching this, if you're a homegrown lifestyle brand, if you are under $1 million total turnover right now, you will probably have an over-reliance on ads because you are trying to grow, you're trying to scale, and you will probably have a relatively low portion of sales that are attributed direct because your brand awareness is not there yet, and then your SEO will probably be sub 5%. But as you grow, you can rein that in. Your socials will pick up, your email will pick up, your direct will pick up. You can rein in your Google Ads to get a better return on it. If you're building the authority, go back to these 5 points, your SEO is increasing, and if you can set a benchmark of 25% of those four, what you're buying, what you own, what you nurture, what you earn, and use that as a baseline, then you can build a very sustainable brand. We'll link to the backbone of digital marketing in the description of this video. So if you haven't checked it out, please do check it out. There's a whole video series on there by yours truly. So check that out. We need to wrap this one up because we've slightly overrun. We've had a lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.
Bye for now.